Are you still there, in that quiet room of your heart, waiting for the sound of footsteps that will never again grace your door? Do you find yourself lost in the echo of a shared laugh, staring at your phone, wondering why the person who once filled your world with light now occupies it with a silence so vast, so profound? You're not just missing them, you're haunted by a question that eats away at the edges of your peace. Why? After everything you lived, everything you shared, everything you were, why don't they seek you out anymore? In this space together, we're going to pull back the curtain on this uniquely human heartache. We'll journey into the depths of your own heart, guided by the wisdom of Jungian psychology. This isn't just about a breakup. It's about the intricate, invisible threads that bind us to others' emotional projections, the powerful archetypes of love that live within us, and the unconscious bonds that can keep us chained to a ghost long after they've departed. This is not a lecture meant to convince you to just let go. I wouldn't dare diminish your pain with such a simple, hollow phrase. Instead, consider this a mirror held up not to your sorrow, but to the incredible strength and resilience of your soul. If you've ever felt that shattering, that hollowing out of your spirit when love leaves without a word, then this reflection will not leave you untouched. I invite you to stay, to walk this path to its end, because the answer you so desperately search for isn't in their silence. It's waiting for you in the beautiful, unexplored shadows of your own being. The unbearable weight of silence. There is a pain that cuts deeper than a final, spoken goodbye. It's the silence that follows, a quiet that descends without warning, that offers no explanation, no closure. It's a silence that doesn't whisper, it screams. It screams in the empty space on the pillow next to you, in the unopened chat window, in the songs you can no longer hear without a pang of grief. A formal farewell, as brutal as it may be, at least signals an end. It allows some part of you to brace for impact, to begin the ritual of mourning. But when a presence simply vanishes, when the daily rhythm of their existence in your life ceases as if it were nothing more than a dream, that is when the soul doesn't just break. It fractures into 1,000 invisible shards, and you're left to piece yourself together in the dark, wrestling with the whys that multiply with every passing day. Why? You ask the ceiling at 3 a.m. Why, when I gave every piece of myself? Why, when I was their anchor in their stormiest seas? Why, when I would have torn myself apart just to see them whole and happy? And then, the most corrosive question of all, the one that loops on repeat in the loneliest corners of your mind. Why am I still waiting for someone who has made it so clear they are never coming back? A grief that has no answers is a grief that has no end, and you must understand this crucial truth. Often, it is not their physical absence that causes the deepest wound. What truly devastates you is what their absence has awakened within you. It has found and triggered that abandoned, forgotten place inside of you. A wound so old you may not even remember receiving it. It's an emotional echo, a phantom limb of pain that connects this present loss to every loss that came before. The vast majority of people who find themselves waiting for someone who is long gone are not, in fact, waiting for the real, flawed, complex human being. They are waiting for what that person represented. They are clinging to an idealized version, a shimmering mirage of a person that, in truth, never existed outside the beautiful, yearning landscape of their own mind. And it's here, in this space between reality and illusion, that we encounter one of Carl Jung's most illuminating concepts: projection. The ghost you're chasing. Love and projections. When you fall in love, you rarely fall in love with the person as they truly are, in all their messy, contradictory glory. In the initial, intoxicating rush, you fall in love with what you see in them. And what you see is a story being told by your own soul. It is your unconscious speaking to you in the only language it knows. Think of your heart as a movie projector. Deep within you there is a reel of film, an image of perfect love of the one who will see you, heal you, complete you. Jung called this the anima, the inner feminine image in a man, or the animus, the inner masculine image in a woman. This soul image is crafted from all your hopes, your dreams, your unmet needs, and most powerfully, your deepest wounds. When you meet someone who happens to fit the silhouette of this inner image, the projector turns on. You cast them in the starring role of your film, projecting this entire epic narrative onto them. You don't see them, you see the hero, the savior, the missing piece of your own story. Do you see it now? The profound, heartbreaking truth. You are not waiting for that person to come back. You are waiting for the part of yourself that you projected onto them to be returned to you. And that, my friend, is a journey they can never make for you. That part of you never left. It's just waiting to be reclaimed. Now, we must turn to the hardest part of this truth. Sometimes, the reason they don't reach out, the reason they disappeared, has less to do with you than you could ever imagine. Sometimes, it's because you, in your raw, authentic being, triggered something in them, something they were not ready or willing to face. Perhaps your love was too honest in a world they had built on subtle deceptions. Perhaps your emotional depth was too real for someone accustomed to wading in the shallows. Perhaps you were simply too much of a mirror, because this is a little known secret of profound connection. When you truly connect with someone, you become a mirror. You force them to see themselves in your eyes, and for many people, the reflection staring back at them is unbearable. It's not because you did anything wrong. On the contrary, you did everything right. You showed up as yourself, and in doing so, you showed them their own reflection, their deepest wounds, their paralyzing fear of abandonment, their crippling inability to receive genuine love, their intricate web of self-deception. You showed them the fracture lines running through their own soul. And when a person is not ready to begin the work of healing, they will do the only thing they know how to do. They will flee from the mirror that reminds them of their own brokenness. This journey inward, the confrontation with the parts of ourselves we have repressed and denied, is what Jung called the process of individuation. It is the path toward wholeness, and you, without even intending to, may have opened the door to that path for them. And because they were terrified of what lay beyond, they didn't just walk away, they ran. Do you understand now? It wasn't a casual lack of love, it was a desperate escape. It wasn't a personal rejection, it was a profound and instinctual fear. And so, while you sit and wait, replaying your mistakes, they are still running, not because you were too much or not enough, but because you inadvertently touched something inside of them they didn't even know existed. You touched their shadow, the hidden, unlit parts of their psyche. And when one's shadow is touched, there are only two possible reactions: turn and face it, or run. Most people run, and you're left asking, why won't they come back? Because they can't. They don't have the tools, the courage, or the awareness to deal with the powerful truth you activated within them. They don't understand why they felt so utterly seen, so vulnerable, so terrifyingly exposed in your presence. Because, maybe, for the very first time, they saw their true self in your gaze. And that sight was more terrifying than the thought of living without you. That is why they don't seek you. You weren't a comfortable fantasy. You were a wake-up call, and nobody wants to wake up when they are still determined to dream. I am not sharing this with you to give you false hope, to encourage you to keep waiting. It is the absolute opposite. I am telling you this so that you can finally, truly understand. Their silence is not a verdict on your worth. What you felt, the connection, the love, that was real, it flowed from you, but the expectation you now hold is an illusion. You don't need them to come back to validate what was real. You need to come back to yourself. You need to return to that sacred place within you, that you abandoned while trying to be enough for someone who doesn't even know who they are yet. When you idealize another, you give away your power. The moment you awaken from that dream, you take it back. And today, this moment is your first sign. It's a sign not to close your heart in bitterness, but to open it with wisdom in a new direction. Towards yourself, you weren't too much. You were precisely what the universe ordered. They just weren't strong enough yet to receive it. Remember this, burn it into your soul. They did not leave you because of who you are. They left because of what you made them see about who they are. And that is never a reason to dim your light. It is a divine call to turn up its wattage, to raise your consciousness, and to shine so brightly that you no longer seek validation from reflected light. The chains of love. Fear disguised as devotion, it's a truth that's hard to swallow, but we must face it with courage. Often, what we have been calling love is not love at all. It's a beautifully disguised, socially acceptable form of neediness. It is lack dressed up in the finery of romance. It's a story you desperately needed to believe, projected onto a person you may have hardly known beneath the surface. And please, hear me when I say this is not your fault. We all do this. It is a fundamental part of the human condition until we learn a better way. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But what so many of us fail to understand is that this transformation is rarely mutual and almost never balanced. Sometimes one person is catalyzed into growth, while the other is fractured or simply evaporates. You didn't just fall in love with a person. You fell in love with the archetype they activated within you. Perhaps they were the savior, coming to rescue you from your loneliness, or the protector, making you feel safe for the first time. Maybe they embodied the validation you never received from a parent, or reflected your own abandonment wound so perfectly that it felt like coming home. This is the tricky, unconscious mechanism of the psyche. It doesn't choose partners who are necessarily good for us in a healthy, conscious way. It chooses partners who embody our wounds. It seeks out those who can play a role in our internal drama, hoping that this time we can finally fix the original story. And that is why you can't stop thinking about them, even after they've hurt you so profoundly. You don't miss them. You miss the feeling they triggered in you. You miss the role they played. Did you truly know them? Did you know their secret fears, their petty insecurities, the true limits of their character? Or did you only see the shining armor of the role you needed them to play? When a projection shatters, the pain is excruciating because you don't just lose the person. You lose a part of yourself. You lose the illusion, the story you were telling yourself about your life and your future. But listen closely. This shattering is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your true one. It is the start of your real individuation. The sacred journey back to yourself. The path to discovering who you are without the reflection, without the need to lose yourself in another. It's the journey to your true self, naked, honest and gloriously whole, without fantasies or wounds dictating your choices. It's hard to accept, but much of what we call love is a hidden, desperate desire for control. You believe you are giving freely, loving with all your heart, surrendering completely. But look deeper beneath the surface of that devotion. Is there a hidden contract you've written? If I am good enough, they won't leave me. If I love them fiercely enough, they will have to stay. If I can heal their pain, they will surely choose me. This is where the self-deception takes root. Because you are not loving from a place of freedom. You are loving from a place of fear. And any love that is born from the fear of abandonment will always inevitably lead to constriction. The other person feels this, even if it's never spoken. They feel your need for validation, your silent plea not to be left alone. Their soul senses the weight of being responsible for your emotional stability, and it begins to withdraw, not from cruelty, but because no one can stand for long on a pedestal. Pedestals are not platforms of admiration, they are cages. They suffocate the real person who can never live up to the divine, idealized image you've placed upon them. You weren't rejected because you gave too much. You were left because you were giving from a place of fear, bargaining your devotion for their presence. And fear, even when it wears the beautiful mask of love, will always be repelled. Now that you see this, now that you know, you can finally do it differently. You can begin to love from a place of wholeness, not from a place of lack. The long road home to yourself, you say you miss him. You say you can't stop replaying the memories, that you wake each morning with that familiar, heavy knot of grief in your chest, wondering what you did wrong. But if you can pause just for a moment and observe yourself with radical honesty, you might discover a startling truth. You don't miss him. You miss who you were when you were with him. You miss the version of yourself that felt seen, cherished, vibrant, and whole. You miss the feeling of being special that was activated by his gaze. When he left, you didn't just lose a person, you lost access to that emotional state. You lost your primary source of validation. You are not waiting for a person to return. You are waiting to feel like that version of yourself again. And you have mistakenly believed that his return is the only key that can unlock that door. This is the ultimate trap of the ego. The ego doesn't want to heal, it wants to be right. It whispers, if he comes back, it proves I was worthy. If he regrets it, it means I wasn't wrong. If he chooses me again, it means I am enough. You are not waiting for love. You are waiting for emotional vindication. But your soul has a different agenda. The soul doesn't need the story to have a happy ending. The soul only needs you to awaken. And awakening rarely comes with neat answers and tidy bows. It comes with the raw, messy, beautiful awareness of your own inner landscape. What truly hurts you is not that he left. It is that his departure left you standing naked before the mirror of your own inner lack. A lack that was there long before he arrived. He didn't create it, he just illuminated it. And in that sense, the person who has caused you the most pain may also be your greatest teacher, disguised as your tormentor. They are the one who, without knowing it, forced you to finally look within, to begin the sacred work of rebuilding yourself not on the shifting sands of another's approval, but on the bedrock of your own self-worth. The final, deepest pain is the feeling of being made invisible, to feel that someone who knew the intimate details of your soul now acts as if you are a stranger, as if you never existed. This triggers an ancient wound, the unconscious belief that you are not worthy of being remembered. But it is not he who is making you feel invisible. It is your own unresolved wound, projecting its deepest fear onto his silence. Until you make this unconscious pattern conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. But you are not fated to be abandoned. You are being called to finally, once and for all, stop abandoning yourself. You do not need to fight for recognition from someone who has chosen not to see you. The more you try to be seen by him, the more invisible you become to yourself. You lose your center, you lose your power, you become the shadow of a person who is no longer even there. Rejection does not define your worth. It only reveals where you have not yet learned to fully recognize your own. You are not broken. You are in the midst of a profound awakening. You no longer need his return, his texts, his I miss you. You have yourself. And that, after the initial storm of pain, is the beginning of true freedom. So today, if you tell yourself only one thing, let it be this: I choose myself. I no longer place the keys to my worth, my peace, or my happiness in anyone else's hands. My existence does not require external approval. My breath, my heart, my resilience, my capacity to love. These things make me whole right now in this moment. Do not end this chapter as a victim. End it as a soul who has awakened, not as someone who was left behind, but as someone who has finally, after a long and painful journey, found the way back home, back to yourself. This is not an ending. It is the beginning of a love you will never again have to seek outside of yourself, because you have finally realized that everything you were ever looking for has been waiting patiently, right there within you all along. You just needed to open your eyes and see yourself again. And now that you have, promise yourself you will never look away again.